I'm sorry, I forgot. I just started it. Keep going.
Okay. I have a second slide on history. Yeah. And then as some like uh during like Imperial Japan's rule of Korea, many Koreans were unfortunately subjected to forced labor and or sex slavery. So a lot of Koreans, what they did was they would flee to Japan and form these mobs to escape some discrimination like that they were facing in their home, like in Korea. So the most famous mobster, Kim Do-han, rose to the ranks of a gang that he was in called Jumok and became famous for fighting the Japanese Yakuza, which like the Yakuza is the Japanese version of like a mafia. So kind of at this time, we see a lot of conflicts between the Korean mafia and the Japanese mafia. And we really see in the 1970s, it starts to pick up with all of the modern Korean mobs beginning to form. And then 1980s was prime time for the mafia. They could infiltrate large businesses and local and international government businesses to kind of create this like internalized corruption and kind of stemming out into like how Korea runs with like other countries and things like that. So yeah, that's the history of the mafia.
All right, cool. So, how the mafia is perceived today, I could not find a lot of how it's perceived today. So, I basically just put stuff that I found interesting, which is basically what Melissa said, but simplified. So, the Korean mafia now is referred to as gundal or jokbok, which directly translates to organized criminals slash the mafia. Uh, the most famous mafia today is the Kim Do-han and his gang is called Jumak, meaning fist. And the leader of the gang back in his days reunited other mafias to resist against the Japanese, like Melissa said. And later, after he did that, he was given a government position, which I found interesting. So, yeah, that's all I could find. I'm so sorry.
Didn't we?
Oh, I didn't even, I'm so sorry. I literally thought that was
Madam
Ash's slide.
President.
They all look the same to me. So then I was like, waiting for you to change the slide. Sorry.
I was like, is no one
Anyway.
gonna? Okay, I'll do it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So I kind of also repeated Melissa and mine too. A little bit. Anyway. Uh, so from what I read, the Korean mafia was really kind of like under wraps, like not that like publicized, kind of like unlike like notable names like Pablo Escobar. Um, so like it wasn't like a really big thing internationally that people knew about. And so there's not that much information about it, but like people, like historians suspect there were gangs more than likely, like there were gangs for the 1900s. They just like weren't big or powerful. But when like the Japanese occupation of Korea happened in the 1900s, those early gangs in Korea were really heavily influenced by the Yakuza. And like Yakuza like gang rules were kind of like no swords, like no knives, no guns, you know, like just fists. Like beat each other up, but like do it with like brute strength. Um and so a lot of the like gang members in Korea in the early 1900s were like really skilled street fighters. And even now they still kind of follow the same rules, and they're like most members of gangs in Korea now are like trained in wrestling or martial arts like that. But to go back in history, in the early 1900s, a little context, a lot during the Japanese occupation, a lot like it was not uncommon for people that are born in Korea to move to Japan, and then try to assimilate a little bit, even though there was like a lot of discrimination. And so one notable person, his name is Hayashi. He moved to Japan at 5, and then not at 5, but after he grew a little older, he joined the Yakuza. And he actually became like so well known and so like a big name for the Yakuza that they like sent him back to Korea, and they're like, you're gonna operate as like the head of the Yakuza in Seoul. And that's on the second slide. But so by that point, he was like a really, really big name. And a lot of the gangs in Korea, like the organized gangs, were of Japanese like influence. And so he kind of ran all of the gangs in Korea. But there were smaller gangs that were like of Korean descent. They were strong, but they weren't organized, so they were easier to beat. And so by the like 1930s, almost the entirety of Korea was under Hayashi's rule. And then the name that we've so notably repeated, Kim Do-han, started gaining some influence. He was the son of like, let me find it. He was the son of a famous independence fighter. And he grew up homeless after both of his parents were killed by the Japanese. And so we kind of had like a bone to pick with not only the Japanese, but also like Hayashi. And so he kind of gathered all these small, unorganized mafia gangs in Korea that were of Korean descent. And he was like, all right, let's like put some organization into this. And he became a really big threat to the Yakuza, which was like a big thing because they were so like untouchable. And so after the Japanese rule of Korea ended in 1945, Hayashi surrendered his control of Seoul and pretty much all of Korea to Kim Do-han. And I think it's really interesting. He actually later became like befriended him, and Hayashi supported Kim Do-han like financially. There's a lot of stuff that happens between the 50s and currently, like a lot of stuff. And I can send you guys a link to the page that I found because I think it's really interesting. But I didn't want to like drag it out and make it super long. But there was like a second gang of or second generation of Korean gangsters after the Korean War. And this is when Kim Do-han got like really, really powerful and got political power. And that was a start of like a lot of his like more notorious like secondhand men, you know, like people that were with him. And in fact, like actually a few of them got put in jail. But for those that didn't, he was able to get some of them political power. And so in the 50s, a lot of the Korean government was full with like mafia members. And so it was actually like fairly corrupt during the 50s. And there was a gang called Dongdaemun, and they were using, like they worked alongside Kim Do-han, and they were using his power to silence their political opponents, but also to they were using political terrorist attacks in the 50s to silence protesters who were protesting against the corrupt regime. And then there's like gangs that start going against the rules of like use your fist. They start actually like using guns and killing people, and like doing some really, really bad things. And the public starts like seeing it more and more often. And they start like trying to reform the government. And so then it becomes less and less full of the mafia. Since the 90s, the Korean government set a strict policy on organized crime, where it's illegal to form a crime group. I don't know why, but I was like, wow, that's so crazy. I didn't think that it was illegal for whatever reason to like make an organized crime group. We're going to do things illegally, but together. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's legal. Like, I don't know why I was so shocked to find out that like, that's an illegal thing to do. I guess it just slipped past my mind. But so for like how their presence has changed, in the beginning, like the Korean mafia was kind of like a hero for like Korean people that were like being oppressed by the Japanese, because a lot of time like people in like the Korean people in gangs, they would fight against like the Yakuza, and since like the government was like so run by the Japanese at that point, Japanese gangs like wouldn't get punished, but like Korean gangs would be sent to the war. Like they would be immediately put in the war. And so they like needed a hero kind of, and that's kind of what Kim Do-han kind of served to do. But then he like became kind of corrupt and, you know, started becoming like an enemy of the public. So their presence has shifted from hero to public enemy number one to now you really don't even see him that much. They have nowhere near the power they used to have. But there is one like gang leader, Lee Kang-hwan. He's the leader of Chiseungpa, which is it translates to 7 Stars Gang, which is currently the largest gang in Korea. He was arrested for extorting like 400 million won. That's not, I don't know, it's a lot of money. It's like $343,000. But that's really not that much money. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna steal money, like steal a lot, you know? Sorry. Anyway, but he got arrested in 2010, and like the last update we have on him is that his health was in decline. But I cannot tell you whether or not this man is alive because that's the only thing I can find on him is that he got arrested in 2010. Like, I do not know if he's still alive. He might, but that's all there is right now with the Mafia. They're kind of fizzling out. That's it.
And then what do Mafia members do? They commit crimes. Transitioning right into our next topic, Korean crime. Woo!
I don't know if you can see me. So
Next.
we're going to talk about crime. And first we're going to talk about the death penalty. So I compared the death penalty between South Korea and America, and basically they're kind of similar. The only difference is that the executions in South Korea are by hanging, and we do lethal injections. So the purpose South Korea did the death penalty was to kind of stop crime and to cause reaction from people. It kind of worked, I guess. So the methods they had before, they would do slow slicing, hanging, and dismemberment. So slow slicing is like when they cut you into 1,000.
$1,000 pieces. Head
Yeah.
would be just okay.
1,000 small pieces. And when they did dismemberment, they would hang your head in some spike just for the public to see, just to kind of give a warning not to commit crime. And for America, I think like there's only 28 states that do the death penalty. Texas, of course, is one of them. We were actually the first state to do a lethal injection to be carried out. And the methods America had before was electrocution, gas chamber, hanging, and firing squad.
Hi, it's me. So I will be, and I don't have my camera on right now because I look like I just crawled out of hell. But I'll be comparing American crime and Korean crime, and I just put in a link to kind of go through some stats. Just a few trigger warnings before I start. This website does mention violence, guns, murder, and rape. So if you are uncomfortable with those topics, please mute your device. She pulling up with the statistics. Absolutely. So yeah, I will just kind of like read through a few that I found interesting, which was like the police officers, which I believe is like the number per 100,000 people, and just like look at the difference. 271 times more than South Korea. Like that's pretty insane to me. Like just the comparison over on the right, and just like total crimes per 1,000 people, like 27% more than South Korea. Like it's a little insane, you know? So yeah, and it was just to like have this like what you're familiar with and compare it to Korea. Another one, crime levels 4 times more. It's pretty insane. And they also have like the rankings and stuff. I can send this link in the chat if y'all are interested in looking through. There's like 2 other pages of just like comparing South Korea and the United States. But yeah, like violent crime, 66% more than South Korea. And then they have like the rankings. I'm like moving my mouse around, like y'all can see my mouse, but you can't. So, but just look through and just really soak it in. The crime rates. But yeah, Michael, will you like click over? If you scroll down, there's like another page. Gucci. Well, like 5. Actually, let's not go through all of those. We'll just go through the second one and vibe. Also learned today that there's a difference between burglaries and robberies. Life is crazy. Fear of crime, 42% more than South Korea. And I believe like the fear of crime amongst citizens, like prisoners. Oh my gosh. Kennedy, I couldn't really tell you from in my head, like burglaries are like done to businesses and corporations, I guess, and robberies are done to people, citizens. But yeah, bro, look at that prisoner statistic. That is insane. Wow. Makes sense. Yeah, it does. But yeah, and there was even like what was I about to say? But yeah, these are pretty interesting. They even mentioned like the death penalty in one of them, like how Jess was saying how it was pretty similar but different. Oh, one that I also found really interesting was like the age at which you could be charged. In the US, I didn't know this. Like the US, it starts in some states at like 6 years old. Yeah, at 6, like 6 to 12 years old is like the youngest for yeah, it's crazy. Age of criminal responsibility, like that is insane. But yeah, I'll send this link. Baby jail, go to baby jail. But yeah, I'll send this link in the chat. I won't spend too much time on this, but yeah, this is pretty interesting stuff. I recommend looking through if you're comfortable.
Wait for it. Here we go. Top rated crimes in South Korea plus their crime weight. I will say I did not find a lot because there's not a lot of crime in South Korea, which I mean is kind of not surprising, but also a little bit surprising. But top rated would probably be cyber crimes. That's not really that exciting though. Murders do happen, but they are, again, put loosely, they're common. But that's a loose common. There is drug smuggling, but I'm sure, I mean, we've talked about it before, how heavy they are on no drugs and how heavy they are with keeping those out, but there is quite a bit of drug smuggling with China, Korea, and Japan, and a whole little doing it in between them. There is a very low crime rate, and in a little poll taken, the South Koreans, they feel safe. If they ever don't feel safe, it's at night, and it is mostly women. The highest crime rate hit in 2000, when it was previously in 1978. And in 2007, it was 2.9 times higher, with the number of crimes committed hitting in the millions. But yeah, there's not a lot of information on that.
And then we're going to get into some good old-fashioned corruption, baby, and the different types of corruption that Korea mainly has.
Okay, so the first corruption we're going to talk about is political corruption, which was and I'm going to be talking about the impeachment of their president in 2016. Their president got impeached and removed from office. So, the South Korean president of the time was like Park Geun-hye, and it was discovered that she had been influenced by her longtime friend Chun Soon-sil. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names, but Soon-sil was not a government official, but she had access to everything the president is. Like, we're talking like everything. I listed it. It was like she edited her presidential speeches for her, despite not even being officially hired. She had access to statements, public affairs. She knew where she was going every day. She got in on meetings, even like secret ones that they had with North Korea. Like, she'd even pick out like her handbags. Like, she was doing everything for her, like on the side, and no one really knew because they were blacking out. They blacklisted like everything about Soon-sil. Like, no one knew who she was really. But Sunso also kind of used it to her advantage. She extorted like chaebols, which is like large companies, like family donors, just like big corporations where they just get a lot of money, and she would extort them for bribes. And they have no idea how much she took because of how long she got away with it. And the thing about Sunso, like she did do a lot of stuff, but her daughter was, oh my God, her daughter was Yura. She was falsely admitted into university. So she basically, like the recent thing in the US to where the college admissions fraud, she basically committed that. And they would give bribes to the teachers and be like, oh, like, I didn't show up to class, here's money. Yes, I did. She, even in high school, she like only attended, yeah, literally, Lori, she only attended 86 of the 205 days of her high school, and she still graduated. She didn't even show up to get her diploma. She literally had a court case to appeal to get her diploma. And in college, they had a famous writer actually like do her assignments for her. He got in trouble because of that later. She was like, that daughter was crazy. She like, after all of this stuff came out, she literally dipped to Denmark. She had like a 2-year-old child, and she was like, you know what? See you later. And then she got arrested and took back. But the result of this corruption scandal led to the impeachment and exit from office and the arrest of like literally everyone involved. So the president was like actually removed from office. She wanted to resign, but they were like, no, we're going to impeach you. But yeah, that was probably one of the largest political scandals that happened.
Hi. Okay, so I will be talking to you about some of the scandals that occur within South Korea that involved a type of corruption. So corruption in general within South Korea is actually like kind of bad because in 2019 it ranked 39th out of 180 countries. So like to put that in perspective, it ranked lower than its competitor, Japan, and it's actually lower than the US. The US ranked 23rd, so surprisingly, which doesn't make sense, but um, but yeah, so in 2015, a report was like issued out that said that 70% of the public distrusts their government, and then like less than 30% of them were actually confident in their judicial system. So there's that. Their government has like taken measures to try to prevent corruption. So like for example, the Act on the Protection of Public Interest Whistleblowers, which essentially protects whistleblowers who report public and private corruption as well as foreign bribery and public services, have also digitalized in order to avoid opportunities of corruption. But like it still happens because some people suck. And it's also very difficult to investigate because secrets, people like to keep things under the rug, so it's hard to get their hands on certain things when they know that things are wrong. But yeah, so there are different forms of corruption. Andres just previously mentioned political corruption, but there's also different ones that can happen of like not just in South Korea but like overall, like in general, like bribery, extortion, patronage, influence peddling, graft, and embezzlement. Those are some. So some of the scandals I'm going to go over is some examples. So pardon me. So I will not be going over Burning Sun scandal because it is very triggering for some people, and it also is a more recent one considering it happened last year? Question mark? This year has been so long, I honestly don't remember. I think it was last year. But yeah, I'm not gonna go over that on one all, so y'all are okay. But the first one I will discuss is the Daewoo dissolution and corruption scandal, which is an example of embezzlement. So what happened in this was it was a scandal involving the bankruptcy of Daewoo, who during this happened during 1999 to 2006, and during that time, Daewoo was the country's second largest company, and a subsequent corruption investigation happened during 1999 to 2006 that involved arrest, escapes, and eventual conviction of dozens of companies' top executives, and is described as one of the largest scandals in South Korea. So some background information on this was that they were a major South Korean conglomerate. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And prior to the Asian financial crisis in 97, it was the second largest conglomerate in South Korea. But by 99, they went bankrupt with debts of about $50 to $80 billion in US currency. And so what had happened was that a little bit after their demise, South Korean prosecutors filed charges against over 40 of the top executives that is later called the Daewoo corruption scandal. And so it was the discovery that the company's auditors concealed the amount of debt and bribes of about 470 billion won, which were involved, which is around $400 million in US currency. So that's a lot of money to take. And the chairman, Kim Woo-jung, fled over to Vietnam, where his former factory workers in South Korea put up wanted posters all over the place with his face on it so that they could get him, because again, he had left out to Vietnam. But he did later return in June of 2005, where he was arrested, and he was charged with masterminding accounting fraud of 41 trillion won, which is around 43.4 billion US dollars, illegally borrowing $10.3 billion, and smuggling $3.2 billion out of the country. Yeah, that's a lot of numbers. That's a lot of money. And so he was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being convicted of fraud and embezzlement. But a little over a year later, he was granted amnesty by President Ron Moo-hyun. And that's it. That's all that happened. He didn't get his full sentence for stealing so much money. So yeah, there's an example of embezzlement. I try not to talk about K-pop because it's not the K-pop club. But I love you too, Kennedy. This was the example of bribery, which was the Mnet vote manipulation investigation. So last year, South Korean entertainment scandal there's a scandal involving electoral fraud in several reality competition series produced by and broadcasted by the television channel Mnet, which we all know. If y'all K-pop stans, y'all know. But it primarily involves Produce 101 series and Idol School, which were both intended to create K-pop groups with members selected by audience vote. But this mainly focused on Produce 48 and Produce X101. Right? Yeah, X101. And so during the final episode of Produce X101, several viewers began to suspect that the total number of votes was manipulated after noticing different patterns in the numbers. So 272 viewers filed a lawsuit against them on their on-site text voting services, which charged 100 won per vote, prompting an investigation led Seoul Metropolitan Police. And so I'm so sorry if I don't mention any certain names. It's just there's so many names that it gets so confusing because there are like 4 or 5 different Kims involved in this. So I'm sorry if I get some of the stuff wrong. I apologize. But An Yoon Young and Kim Yoon Bum were producers who were arrested, and then An later admitted to manipulating the rankings of like all 4 seasons of Produce 101 series. So then them and 6 other entertainment agency representatives were indicted for charges, including obstruction of business, fraud, and bribery. So then what happened during the investigation was that police investigated whether producers had accepted money for manipulating votes. And so then after approval from the Seoul National District Court, they issued arrest warrants and travel bans to Ahn, Kim, and Starship Entertainment Vice President after they attempted to destroy the evidence, because like they knew that people and the police were onto them. So they're like, get rid of this. We don't want any connection to this. But by that evening, they were arrested. And so police revealed that the final rankings of the top 20 for Produce 48 and X101 were already predetermined by producers before final performances were recorded or even broadcasted. So in the end, a total of 10 people were arrested. The indictment revealed that Ahn and Kim met with one other producer 2 days before the live finale of X101 to determine the members based on pre-finale online votes, and excluded those who they didn't prefer. So it's more like, I like this person, put them in. I don't like them, take them out. You know what I mean? So like they also held a similar meeting in 2008 before Produce 48's finale. And so they swapped rankings of like trainees based on their own preferences. So like someone was supposed to debut in 101, but they didn't. And then someone else was supposed to debut in IOI, but they just flip-flop and switch them around. And so CJ Entertainment, which is one of the companies involved, had earned 142.65 million won. I'm sorry, I don't know that in US currency, from paid text messaging votes from Produce 48 and X101. I'm assuming it's a lot of money in US currency. It's a lot in won, so I'm assuming it's a lot in US currency. And so Ahn had received 47 times around 46.83 million won by 5 different talent agencies in exchange for giving their trainees extra screen time, so that more people will vote for them. So in the end, Ahn was given 3 years in prison, along with Kim Young-bum. I'm so sorry mispronouncing that. I'm illiterate. And then 2 years for producer Lee Mi-kyung, and 1 year for each of the 5 agency representatives charged with collusion, and they also owed over $1 million each. Yeah, 100 million won is about 106,000. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's a lot. And so they definitely owed like millions back because of bribery, which is everything's just rigged, which we kind of all know. Some reality shows are rigged, but so yeah, that happened. So the next one is forgery. There was something called the South Korean nuclear scandal, which the country faced a series of shutdowns of nuclear reactors because of fake documents way back in 2012. And if y'all don't know, South Korea depends heavily on nuclear power. And so it is a major power source in South Korea, providing 29% of the country's electricity. So if anything happens, a lot of electricity is gone. So in November of 2012, 2 of the nuclear reactors were suspended by the country after discovering that the parts of it were supplied by fake certificates. So technically, it's illegal to have those parts. So like if anything happened, it's like if something goes off in one of the nuclear reactors, it's probably because it's one of those parts, because they're illegal. So then in October 2013, South Korea indicted about 100 people, which included a top former state utility official, with the charges of scandal. And officials noted that they will bring back into compliance those reactors and those that were suspended for inspection and replacement of parts. And so then in February 2014, the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission declared that investigation since mid-2013, they found 8 cases of 2,075 samples of foreign manufactured reactor components that were supplied with fake documents. And so like, we don't know where these parts and these documents came from. Like, they won't disclose that information, so we'll never know. Yeah. And so for the last one involves judicial corruption and trigger warning. This is all up to you, up to everyone. The prosecutor sex scandal that does involve sexual assault, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So y'all are more than welcome to leave or just put in the chat y'all don't want me to talk about it, because if y'all don't want me to talk about it, I won't talk about it. I'll just tell you what happens in the end. That's it. I won't explain anything, and I'll just move on to the Wee Jung-boo scandal, which is another judicial corruption. So it's all up to y'all. I don't want to like make anyone uncomfortable, and if like the majority of y'all are fine with it, I'll talk about it, and then those who aren't, y'all are more than welcome to just mute and leave for a little bit. Go get yourself a snack, some tea, I don't know, but yeah, it's all up to y'all. I don't know if it's okay to like talk about it.
Maybe it'll be safer just to talk about the other one.
Just the other one? Okay. Okay, I'll just tell you what happened, like the ending of it. I won't go into details. I'm not gonna go into details. That's not what we're gonna do. But so the ending of the first one, what happens is, I'm sorry, I gotta pull up my notes. Was that the prosecution service, because this is a scandal within a certain prosecutor office, the what happened in the end was they faced super harsh criticism from the public due to another scandal of bribery involving another prosecutor under the same company. And so when that news when both news broke out, it caused a huge uproar in the public and had a huge damaging effect on the public's trust of the justice system in South Korea. So that's where I mentioned, like, way in the beginning, that 30% of the 70 aren't confident in the judicial system is because of situations like this. And so I'm not going to go into details, obviously, but what makes this case interesting was that the prosecutor involved in this scandal was that he was 30 years old, but he was barely 1 year in service out of law school of being a prosecutor. So he was a baby in this world. And like every link which it seems kind of sketchy. I don't know if it is me and my research abilities, which aren't necessarily good, but like every link I click to in relation to this scandal, the case doesn't exist. Like everything I click on relates to the bribery scandal under the same company, but not this one. Yeah, it's sus. And so like there's barely any information on what actually happened and what is the true story. Like y'all are more than welcome to go and look it up. And so no names were dropped, nothing's like solid. The only thing that we do know was that the chief of the prosecutor's office did resign as a message of responsibility as the head of the office for all the scandals, including this scandal and the bribery one of $826,000. So yeah, that's one judicial corruption. But the Wee Jung-boo scandal involves more bribery. So in '97, this judicial scandal was where for the first time in their judicial history, prosecutors investigated a large number of the sitting judges. So they had found that 15 district judges had received millions of won in payments from attorneys. So like in the end, the judges like weren't indicted because prosecutors did believe that the money had no direct connection with their legal duties. However, judges who had received sums greater than 1 million won were obligated to resign And while those who received smaller amounts were demoted or had like disciplinary measures done. So along with the 1998 bribery scandal in Daejeon, this scandal was one of the motivations behind a specific law that passed that attempted to address the issue of special treatment shown to judges who retired to become lawyers in private practice. And it also led to a revision of the Code of Judicial Ethics banning cash thank you gifts. So yeah, there's a lot of money involved with a lot of these cases, which money is, not gonna lie, a really big motivation. But yeah, that's some tea.
This is Ashlyn's. I'm going to be reading for her because she had a family function. But this one is about religious corruption. There was first we're going to cover the mega church corruption. Korea has like a lot of mega churches. It has actually 5 of the 20 largest churches in the world. So mega churches are like a huge thing there. I'm not gonna try. The leader of Seoul's Yodo Full Gospel Church, it's the world's largest with 800,000 members. He's a felon, so although the number like isn't exact, no one really knows, but the fraud may total up to like 500 million. In 2002, he had the church pay 12 million of his son's stock 4 times. So he was using the money, the money to assist his son's market. For some reason, like corruption is always family oriented. Like they just do it, I don't know. They just like talk about it at the dinner table or something. But the way that they did it, they dodged paying $2.9 million in taxes because of this. He was caught, of course, and given a 3-year jail sentence and 5-year suspension and a $4,200,000 fine. His son was also sentenced to 3 years in prison, too. Regardless, like the media doesn't really speak about these types of things. I guess because it's not really like it makes anyone look bad when a church is involved in like scandals like this. And now we're going to be talking about the Christian Council of Korea, CCK. And the CCK, not KCC, it's reverse, is an alliance of 69 denominators and 20 Christian organizations. In 2019, about 100 other religious and other organizations gathered to call for the shutdown of CCK. And these are the reasons. They support dictatorship, probably not a good idea. In the past 10 years, 1,200 pastors have been convicted of murder, harassment, and fraud. Murder as in they would try and the pricey forceful conversion program. They would you would pay them to convert someone to their church for you. But for some reason, there's not much details about it, but they would be so forceful that they killed 2 women converting them. Like I don't even know how you do that. But they created and distributed a lot of false news, confusing people, and kind of like straying away from the bad things they were doing, and just bribery and pastoral and organization. They just rigged everything. It was just everything's like just pulled from the strings are being pulled. But yeah, that is Ashlyn's slide.
Alrighty, let me put on my glasses here because we're talking about business corruption, baby. Let's go. So this ain't your Itaewon class mess. No. This is real and none of them are attractive. So pretty much starting out on why corruption in Korea is so well organized within these chaebols, which are these, as we've already touched on plenty of times, are these massive concentrated groups of wealth and power. And they don't give two craps about the sort of massive underbelly of how their company runs the workers that are actually there. So getting into a few of like some of the bigger players when it comes to Korean business corruption. We got good old Samsung. So in doing the research for this, I try not to, number one, read too much off the slides because it's there. I'll highlight some certain things, but in researching overall Samsung's role within Korean society, it's just like, if you all know what GDP is, which is gross domestic product, or I believe, that is how much money like a country will make within a year's time. So within a year, overall percentage, Samsung alone attributes a quarter to the overall Korean GDP, which is 25% of what Korea brings in. We're talking millions upon millions of people. Samsung attributes exactly 28% to that overall percentage, which is crazy. So Samsung, the third heir of Samsung currently, which is Lee Jae-yong, he is right now, you know, he could be doing better. He served a year in prison for bribery, pretty cliche crime if you ask me, but he served a year in jail for bribery. And more than anything, because of the stature and power that Samsung has, he worked a lot with the Korean government in creating policies that would help to go back and benefit Samsung as a company, which is illegal. There was a deal where he basically decided to give, I believe it's like $36 million to the Korean president, the first female Korean president, which I'm like, honey, you had a role, you had one job, which was to not suck. And she failed miserably. If y'all know that BTS song where they're like, am I wrong? Thought I didn't love you. That's that whole song. They're basically like, this lady sucks. And Korean society is just like so harsh on young people, and it's not fair. So while she was getting freaking roasted by BTS, she was also and behind the scenes working with this man to basically get a massive deal merger, which would help Samsung get more affiliates to their overall massive corporation. On the flip side of that, we have Lotte, which is one of the largest Korean conglomerates by means of like, they have entertainment, they have restaurants, they have food. So if you think of the main villain from Itaewon Class, if any of you guys have seen that, that's literally what this is. Lotte is just one of the big 8 leaders of chaebol culture, or chaebols in Korean society. Because of that, their profile in regards to how many industries they have their fingers in is ridiculous, which means that's all the more power that they have to pretty much control and get whatever they want done. Because this wealth is so freaking concentrated into very few hands, it allows for the company to pretty much move within any avenue, within any circle that they want. Because if you have like a big gang with hundreds of people, you can have a snitch. But if it's literally like cousins, siblings, parents, uncles, aunts, it's way more concentrated. So how the heck did we get in this mess? Because fun fact, Korea is rated like 54th out of like 150 for workers' happiness. They're not the best when it comes to treating their workers well. Korean work culture is a whole other honestly, Asian work culture is a whole other beast in of itself. There is that video that went viral of this Chinese man who had not slept in 2 weeks, who had been falling asleep while walking back and forth while getting to work, and they're like, man, are you okay? He's like, I'm Gucci, I gotta go to work. And it's crazy. So these are pictures, I forgot, I also low-key bit my tongue. These are pictures from Korea in 1960s. So kind of when you look at these pictures, all right, we're not seeing this massive, super advanced society that's literally #1 in technological advancement at the moment. No. We got bare bones, hairnets, and dust everywhere. So this was Korea in a time during, I believe it's Park Cho-hun's term as president. He basically said, hey, Korean business owners, if you get with me, if you like put all your trust in me, if y'all can just like group up into like a nice little club and just follow what I tell you, I'll get us out of this mess. And they're basically like, dude, that sounds swell. So that's pretty much how Korean conglomerates, Korean chaebol culture started. This president was basically wanting to get Korea out of economic ruin. They were in this time during the 1960s and 70s, Korea was flat broke. They're in way more poverty than North Korea was. And it was more than anything just embarrassing because they'd separated themselves from North Korea on this idea of spreading democracy, on this idea of like hope and freedom and, you know, America propaganda. But they thought that that was what they were going to get. And then they had a lot of European European influences that ended up backing out of supporting them financially. So they were pretty much just left here. North Korea doing their whole thing with nuclear stuff and bombs and energy, and they got nothing. They got hairnets and dust. So they're sitting around and they're like, all right, we got to do something about this mess. So this is when we see the start of these massive corporations. Samsung is right along the start of the technological boom that's getting prepared to hit both Eastern and Western countries. And that's pretty much how we have current chaebol culture. It was because of these massive conglomerations that Korea was able to rise out of poverty and become this amazing technological state that it is today. On the flip side, because of that, they're now largely to blame for not allowing higher revenue to be able to grow within Korea, for there not to be a lot of jobs available, because these businesses are so concentrated. There isn't a lot of open access for people to go in and work. That's why young people in Korea are like, this isn't great, because it's so hard to get a job. The requirements are so high. That's why private schools and a lot of testing is such a big thing within Korean education, which will probably be another topic for another day. But that's why it's so stressed and punched into the ground, because you basically have to be this superhuman worker to be able to get these roles. So that's why they catch a lot of flack in today's day. And corruption, which is what we're talking about. So I have a video, but I'm going to probably talk over the video because, yeah, who needs that? So speed round. South Korea's chaebol culture. So these are the top 5 biggest chaebols in Korea. None of them are attractive, so we don't need to worry about it. This is the definition of chaebol, which is wealth click. Ooh, super fun, super interesting. This is kind of going back to what I was talking about with how Korea used to be to where it is today. And some of the 5 biggest chaebols, going back to what I said about Samsung, 28%. That is crazy. That's one company. South Korea's president, she didn't do anything. It was terrible. She literally had a lover who sold her out to the Korean journalism and basically just kind of started this whole mess. But her father, however, her father and her mother helped to get Korea out of this poverty. At the same time, though, they were assassinated because people were like, they kind of gross. So this started a massive wave of protesting within Korea, and they made like these paper mache things of her head and other political power leaders of her head, and they would just smash them on the street. This is her getting arrested. She ain't too happy about it. Anyway, these are the top 2. They're only going to highlight 2, but there are 3. It's Samsung, Lotte World, and then CJ Entertainment, like how Dundee already touched on. These are 3 of the biggest companies in Korea who also accepted bribes from her in order to support their own businesses. So corruption. There's also a kind of a big controversy with how conglomerates work in Korea and if their place in society is still relatively needed. The Korean discount is pretty much when across the board, Korea as a whole, because they are so corrupt, a lot of their businesses are worth less in an international scale. So the same Samsung, Lotte World, CJ Entertainment would be worth more in America than it would be Korea, because internationally they're recognized as companies that are not very trustworthy. These are people stomping on Brahman's face because they're like, you know what, forget Samsung, we're getting Apple. And he also laid off a lot of workers, and Korea really loves to protest, and they're really organized. Old people there, they have the best posters. 10 out of 10. If you look up Korean posters for protests, these old folks go hard. So what getting into this new act, all right, that Korea, I say new is relative. It came out in 2016, but that don't mean incredibly too much because it hasn't been fully incorporated, because President Moon, who is the current president of Korea, he also has a light stick that you guys can actually buy if y'all want a President Moon light stick. He hasn't been able to fully combat, yes, this is a real thing. He hasn't been able to fully combat the aspects of Korean chaebol culture that has largely, he ran his campaign basically saying, I will dismantle this and give more access to workers and the average man if you all vote for me, like they do. He hasn't been able to do that, unfortunately, mainly because of the ongoing problems with North Korea, a lot of domestic terrorism that has been going on in Korea. He's gotten kind of sidetracked, understandably, but they just put in, it's called the Implicit Solicitation and Graft Act, which pretty much puts limits on the monetary value of presents given to people who work in certain professions. So going back to Itaewon Class, it's on Netflix if y'all want to see it. But anytime in Korean society where you're doing important business, or there's a wedding or a funeral, important moments in your life, you typically will give a gift or just something expensive that will express your gratitude. That's honestly in different aspects of Asian culture across the board. So it's not too weird. However, like I already mentioned, Korean culture, business culture especially, is a little under the table with a lot of things. So a lot of these gifts, quote unquote, will end up turning into bribes. So this act was enacted to try to dismantle that. There's a lot of problems with it though. So a few controversial points is it is allegedly too strict and it hasn't been fully implemented. So that's why I say allegedly, even though it's been 4 years since it was written. That's where we are. But this act pretty much says, if Melissa was like, hey, Adrian, I got you a freaking gift, bro, ham, because you're my best buddy and y'all worked in the same place, that's illegal. You can't do it. If a student wanted to give a professor a flower, be like, oh my gosh, Miss, what's a stereotypical teacher name? Miss Smith, you're my favorite teacher in the whole world. It's illegal. You can't do it. So people say that it is just a little bit too intense. It means well, but you're doing too much. It also, going back to it, kind of goes against a bit of traditional customs. So a lot of it is like the older generation that is in Korea that is extremely vocal when it comes to politics, economics, all that stuff. They're like, I'm not doing this, man. I'm not following this. If I want to give my cousin a freaking box of chocolates at work, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna do all this. So it goes back and forth. But a professor from Yonsei University was quoted to saying, this may be harsh in the beginning, but give it 10 years, it'll be able to stable out. We'll have a society that is a lot more balanced, and then this act will be fully fleshed out, and we could all get along and be happy. Number two, it's been proposed for years. All right, this act, the idea of it has been around since the 90s. However, it was only fully started gaining weight and getting some energy when, it is called something with a C. If you all know, if any of you all came to our produced KCC social last year and was in the vocal group, and we did One of Those Nights by Red Velvet. That song is actually based off of the, Christy, do you remember what it's called? It's like the boat, it was like the ferry tragedy. It's
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You say Wolf Fairy.
But pretty much it was a catastrophic event where there was a boat full of mainly high schoolers, over 300 high schoolers that capsized, practically killing everyone on board. And the reason why people were asking, like, how did this happen? Why were there no life vests? Like, why was there no help? And this boat was not, almost pretty much like a stereotypical Titanic, this boat was not supposed to leave the ship area, whatever you call it, because it was not equipped to hold that many people. And yes, thank you, the Soul Ferry accident. It was not equipped to hold that many people, but it was a very, prestigious high school. It had a lot of important people on board, and a lot of the parents who had given money to the school were basically saying, this boat is gonna leave. I've paid money for this. It's going to be done, which eventually ended up in an absolute tragedy. So a lot of families who had students that went to public school or couldn't afford these prestigious opportunities and all this, and there's a pressure to be a part of these special circles, they're basically saying, this is what you do to your people. Like, you're in these high class areas, you're in these high esteemed society groups, and yet you all don't care about each other. It's all about money. It's all about bribery. The fact that someone has that much power over someone else because they have a certain economic level is ridiculous. Those kids should have come first. And so there's a massive outcry about that. And that is pretty much why this act was created. A lot of people are like, it's pretty ridiculous, should have been around for God knows how long, but that is pretty much the catalyst to this. And last but certainly not least, the effects on small businesses. Now, of course, everything trickles down, unfortunately, and with this act being written in, I would say, good conscience, it has had an effect on a lot of these businesses that do provide gifts and expensive things that are usually bought and sold, or bought given to people in high places. So a lot of flower shops in Seoul's in Itaewon district, in Seoul's downtown area, a lot of flower shops, chocolate shops. If you all know, if they're expensive wreaths at funerals, those shops are closing as fast as I can blink. All right, this is ridiculous. And a lot of the shop owners have been like, we have not been taken into account. This act is supposed to have an effect on these massive conglomerates, yet they're killing small businesses. So it's having the opposite of effect of what society, the average man, was told that this was going to do. So the one lady who was interviewed basically said, yeah, dude, I've been out here for 20 freaking years, had no freaking problem. And then now all of a sudden this happens. I look around me, 30 businesses in Seoul's downtown district have closed. The only reason why I'm here is because I still have friends at entertainment companies that will give gifts, even though I can't name them, it's still illegal. That's still a part of our tradition. So it's a lot to get into. I guess, I mean, Korean politics is a whole other topic in of itself, but massive corporations like Samsung and Lotte have found a way around this. I mean, it is what it is, but that's business corruption. Yeah. Oh yeah, and don't forget to follow us on social media. Yep, nice plug. Our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. There we go. Just add that right there. 228 followers. Maybe get us to 230. Yeah, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. All right, moving right along. This is our first half done, and now we have a game. Woo! Alrighty, I don't believe I'm explaining this. I'm gonna let someone explain a little better because it came from the mind of our wonderful Dundee. So take it away.
I'll explain it. Okay, so this game is similar to Mafia. I don't know if some of y'all played it, but it's like Mafia and the most popular game recently, Among Us. I don't know if some of y'all play that too, but some of these things have changed due to some people not having many of us here. But so we're not going to go into breakout rooms. What we're going to do is that all of you members will have to decide which imposter is among the officers. So among us, 8 officers that are in this call right now, one of us is an imposter. So what it is like you all will be given a case along with clues, and all of us officers will have alibis that that y'all will use to solve the case and find out who the imposter is among us. And so there will be a total of around 3 rounds where y'all will discuss everything before time is up, and then y'all have to vote someone out who y'all think is the imposter. And whoever is voted out will admit if they are innocent or an imposter. And if one of us officers that is voted out is innocent, the imposter among us has a chance to kill another one of us. So then after the first round, from there on, the next 2 rounds, you will use the remaining evidence and alibis to solve the case before time completely runs out and all of us dead. So we already have chose the imposter. So yeah, so we'll just move on to the case. Okay, so your case. For legal reasons, this is a fake scenario. This didn't actually happen. This won't actually happen. Please, God, don't let it actually happen. We are all on a trip together as a group to celebrate the wonderful gift of friendship. And we all arrive at our Airbnb and we enjoy our first day playing games, eating together, watching movies, etc. before going in for the night at around 10 p.m. to rest up for the next day full of activities. And the next morning, we all wake up and we go into the kitchen for some breakfast, but notice that one of us is missing. So all together, all of us go in a group to head to one of the rooms, room 4, where we discover that the door to this room is unlocked. And we open it and there's a body. Entering the room, we all find that someone named Jane Doe has been murdered. So all in pure shock at the murder, we all hurry to solve the case of who among us officers, killed Jane Doe in the dead of night. Any questions so far? I'm sorry, that was a lot. No questions? Okay. Next slide. Our evidence. The autopsy report shows the murder occurred between 1 to 4 a.m. Everybody was supposedly asleep, supposedly in their dorms. Whether they're asleep, watching TV, doing whatever it is they do in the dorms, but not everyone. The victim was killed by multiple stab wounds and was in blunt force. I'm sorry, this is very graphic. I'm sorry. A little stabby wabby, yes. Within the room is all the evidence that you members will need, including a kitchen knife and a master key card that gives you access to all the areas of the building that is kept in the kitchen on a lanyard. But what made the blunt force? So a little piece of information. The master key card information is it's access to all areas, including bedrooms. But the guest key card, the ones that all of us officers have, is one that access to areas like we'll give you a map, is like areas to the kitchen, to the gym, to the bathroom, those kind of key cards, but we only have access to our room. So someone took the master key card from the kitchen. Next is our alibis. No, I like the map. Yes. Here is the map of where things are. Y'all can obviously, to solve this case, y'all can obviously go back and look at all the evidence and look at the map to try to like use y'all's big brains to solve this case. So within our alibis, there are some of us that do go to the bathroom at night because we gotta tinkle. So the bathroom is like a community style bathroom, like a dorm. So like y'all know what that's like. There's no bathroom in individual rooms, so we have to leave to tinkle. Okay, our alibis. Kennedy.
Sorry, I'm reading the alibis.
Yes, you're reading your alibi.
Is mine A?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm so lost. Okay. So my alibi. I went to sleep at 11 p.m. in room 10. But I woke up around 2 to 3 a.m. from someone walking around the halls. Y'all know I'm a light sleeper. Why would you do that to me? So of course it's like, who is that? So I check outside. But I didn't see anything, so I went back to sleep.
Ashley.
I'm so sorry. Okay. So I was playing a game of basketball with person D till midnight. Then we both headed off to bed in room 13, and person D went to room 7. Then I went to sleep at around 1:30 in the morning, then woke up and left the room in search of a blanket and storage because they got a bit chilly, then back to their room at 2:40 a.m.
Okay. Person sleep the entire night in room 12 at around 10:45. Then a.m. tinkle back to their room.
Michael.
Oh, my bad, my bad. I was like, who has to go? Okay, person D was playing a game of basketball with person B till midnight, then both headed off to bed in room 7, and person B to room 13. Stayed up till around 2 a.m. watching K-dramas, then fell asleep.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Person E, me, I stayed up till around midnight in room 6. Then I went to the kitchen at around 12:32 a.m. for a little snack, where I spotted person H getting a drink, and then we both went back to our respective rooms and slept for the night around 1:30 a.m.
I am person. So I went to sleep at midnight and then I woke up 2 hours later. That's like kind of a nap. Not really sleep, but like it's fine. I went and drank for a kitchen, some whiskey or something. I don't know, something like that. And then in the kitchen, I noticed kitchen knife and the master key card were missing. So I was like, oh, maybe someone wanted to use them. But they were in the dishes. They were with the dishes, so I don't know. Then I went back to sleep in room 11.
Tessa.
Yes. So I decided to sleep with in person I in room 14, where we watched anime and then we both fell asleep around 1 a.m. I woke up around 3 a.m. to go tinkle, and person I was still asleep, and then
Okay, so person H is also me. I awoke during the night a little bit parched, so then I went to the kitchen, spotted person E. Wait, that's myself. I spotted myself getting a snack. Wait, ready? Yeah, wait. Yeah. I don't even know who I am. I spotted myself getting a snack, and then I went back to sleep at around 1:30 a.m. in room 2. Melissa.
Yes. I shared room 14 with Tessa, and we watched anime, and then we both fell asleep at 1 a.m., but I woke up around 3:30, and I went through TikTok and then fell back asleep.
The last alibi. Yes.
I stayed in room till 2 a.m. playing on the Nintendo Switch, then fell asleep. Heard a noise around 3 a.m., but was so tired.
Okay, so. Oh, okay. So then. Members? Which one of us? Investigate. Who did it?
So do we just like discuss?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm thinking it could be either both of the Dundies that went out to get a drink / snack, because by the time, I forgot which letter it was, by the time that one other person went out to get another snack or whatever, that's whenever they noticed that the key card and knife were gone from the kitchen. It might be between those two because they were the ones who were in the kitchen by the time someone noticed that the things were gone.
I'm going to go with Christy on that one and say that if Andres saw that the things were missing before then they had to have been walking around before 12:32 a.m. to grab the things. Wait, right? No, that's the wrong one.
Michael, can you go back to
Sorry, before 2:30 in the morning. So if I'm assuming that that's right, and that they're not lying to me, I heard someone walking around the halls from 2 to 3 in the morning, and the only people that were walking around the halls from 2 to 3 in the morning were person B, person F, and someone else. I literally cannot see that. I can't read this quick enough.
Is it possible
Person B was
that
walking around the halls whenever I heard people. They're a little sus.
Is it possible that the slides could get sent into the chat or something so I could like look at the alibis?
I can't remember.
Can whoever's the host, can y'all go back up to the alibis? Thank you.
Okay, so the autopsy said between 1 to 4 a.m. is whenever the person got killed. Okay.
And Andres woke up at 2:30 and found that the knife and the key card were missing. So it had to have been between 1 and 2:30.
Sorry.
You know, person C was in the hallway at 1:30 to go tinkle.
Sorry, I have a theory that could be a thing. So they mentioned that the blunt object was also something that killed this person. What if it was the basketball? Like they went to sleep around 1:30, right? And like they were out again around 2:40 or something. So that kind of is going along with Kennedy's theory as well.
Yeah, because they were like kind of unaccounted for after midnight.
Yes.
Whenever B and D went to their rooms.
Yes. Can I see the map real quick? Okay. Thank you so much. I'm so into this. So the basketball court. Is there like the gym's over there? Okay. Okay. I was gonna see if it was like specifically close to anything, but it's not really that close to anything. Can I see the alibis again? Sorry. Okay, so let's just right now. Oh, see. Oh, sorry, I don't know why that took me so long to read. Okay, so they stopped playing basketball around 1:30. And so they would have to like go upstairs and like walk by the kitchen and everything. When
They were playing basketball until midnight.
Until midnight. Oh, okay, I can't read obviously.
They went to sleep at 1:30. The only other person that was like walking around 1:30 was person C. Then I'm like, you know what? Could have been them.
Okay. Okay. Could you go on to the next slide? Oof. Okay, can you go back to the previous one? I'm sorry.
I mean, we get 3 chances to vote and try to figure it out. So
Okay.
I think we should vote C first because I'm a little
Okay.
suspicious of C. I think that it's just a little too convenient that they just happen to wake up at 1:30 to tinkle. I don't know. I feel like 1:30 is a weird time to wake up to go to the bathroom. Typically, you wake up like 3 or like 5. You know.
Not just that, that's the time where the murder happened. Like it was
Yeah, it was a time slot where the murder happened. So it's a little too convenient that they had to go pee right around then.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are voting C?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Who was C? I forgot. C was Jess. Are you an imposter?
No.
Well, you're dead.
Oh,
sorry, we
Well,
killed
Jess is C and J, so Jess is still in the game. Just
but
all right,
okay.
so we suspected C for no reason. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just too suspicious.
Okay, so since Jess was person C was an innocent, the imposter has a chance to kill another one of us. So, well, I'm messaging them right now. So then we can find out which one of us died.
do we get like another set of alibis? Is that a thing?
No.
No,
Just,
okay.
hold on.
You just get the first set. It was kind of like someone else died. You think could have killed them from the
Okay.
first set of alibis.
Because what
Solid.
it is that whoever the imposter kills, it also does eliminate one of the alibis, so then y'all know that they're innocent
Okay.
and narrows it down, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Solid.
And the imposter chooses Kennedy.
Aww.
You were
They said
Kennedy.
she was talking too much. She needs to go.
Dang. Let me mute myself real quick.
Kennedy was person A. R.I.P. Kennedy. So now person A and person C are out. Y'all can still look. Well, no. Those alibis are legit because they are innocent. So hold on.
We're all killers now.
Yeah.
There's just something, I don't know. There's just something suspicious about B. Because I keep thinking about the blunt object because it was mentioned. And like, just within this scenario, another blunt object would be a basketball. I don't know if someone could get killed by like a basketball. Like, I don't know. Wait, can I go see the thingy, the other page? Sorry.
Someone getting killed by a basketball. It just don't make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, basketball doesn't really make sense.
Okay, solid.
Person F is kind of sus. He saw some stuff missing, but he didn't say anything.
I was also thinking that.
But I don't know.
It happens.
Okay. I'm trying to like remember like all the details. So we're thinking that the murder happened probably around 1:30.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So the people who are outside of their rooms after 1:30 are probably not the killer. Maybe. That makes sense. Like if they were like if they went out, like for example, like person B, I'm looking at person B. They were in their room at 1:30 and then they came out again around 2:40, so that's probably like person B is probably not it. Okay. Whew. Person C is out, person A is out. We're not thinking person B. Person D was watching K-dramas. Can I go to the next slide? It's just one person, right? It's not like two people.
Yeah, there's just one imposter.
Okay. Okay, what do you guys think of E and H? Like between those two? Because I'm thinking about, and also person F, because they saw the kitchen knife and thingy not there, but he came out around 2:30. So I don't know if that person sorry, let me go back to my first thing. So I'm thinking maybe okay, F.
Wait. I'm not convinced that it's F.
Yeah, I'm not either because I'm feeling because like the knife and MasterCard wasn't there by 2:30. And so what if like between E and H, one of them got like the knife and whatever, and like on the way to their rooms, one snuck into room 4. What if? I need more like clues.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I was reading.
Oh no, yeah. So I was thinking like between this is just a theory. Between person E and person H, those are the two people who woke up to get like a drink slash 2 more minutes. Oh, okay. Okay. Those are the two people who got like a drink slash snack, and they were both in the kitchen. And so by the time person F went to the kitchen, the knife and MasterCard were gone. So what if like either person E or person H, like on the way back to their room around 1:30, one person went to room 4 to kill them? Does that make sense? I
Yes.
just don't know which one.
Yeah.
So maybe it's person H because sorry, you talk.
No, go.
I'm thinking, okay, so I'm trying to like read it. Who was in the kitchen first? Was it person E for a little snack where they spotted person H getting a drink, and then person H spotted person E getting a snack, then went back. Who was in the kitchen first? I don't know. What if we just say for now, person? I don't want to say that. I don't want to like lose. Person also had the autopsy report. Oh, okay, yes. Can you look at that? Yeah, H is a little sus because it doesn't say what time he went out. You know. Could we look at the autopsy report? What time?
I can say the autopsy report if that'll help. I don't know where it is and the thing.
It's right there.
It just says murder. Okay, but report.
What created the blood force? God.
Y'all's time is up. So who are y'all voting for to be
H.
H.
Yeah.
H.
H was me, and I was innocent.
Oh. R.I.P. Dundee.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I feel okay. Let's use our heads.
Y'all got
Put it
one more
together.
chance. Third
Wait,
time.
what?
Y'all got this.
Oh my god. Okay. It just seems like very like ominous that they're talking about a blunt force. That there's like a specific object. The blunt force is like highlighted.
With the ball.
I'm thinking, okay, because basketballs are kind of hard. Like they're still balls, but you feel like, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know how you could kill someone with a basketball, but yeah, I don't know.
Girl, like this person's like asleep, and then, you know, and then with a knife maybe.
Like it's like knocked him out with the ball and then
Aggressive dribbling. Yes, exactly. Okay, can we go back to the alibis? The first page, I think. Okay, person B. Why are they looking for a blanket? You got a blanket in there.
I am gonna start